This was the Catholic Church being brought into that, I think you could say. So these people weren't always in the spirit, they were in the flesh a lot because they actually battled for positions. They may have had some biasness. But let's be clear. These were political negotiations disguised as spiritual discussions. These men were not Hebrew apostles. They were bishops shaped by Greek philosophy, Roman politics, and rising anti-Jewish sentiment. So they weren't always in the spirit. You know, they had things riding on these positions, and they were sometimes may have been in the flesh.
I'm going to venture to say they were in the flesh from the day they entered the council until the moment they left the council. Again, Vicki put it very clearly. These were not Hebrew apostles. They were not in the spirit. These were men with an agenda. They were very influential. They were jockeying for positions, of authority and power and influence. And they were being shaped by Greek philosophy. Keep that in mind, Greek philosophy, not Hebrew thought. Roman politics, which was all mixed up with paganism. And then you've got the rising anti-Jewish element into things. On the surface, it looked like the council was called to settle the dispute between Arius and Alexander. As I mentioned earlier, that was, whether or not Yeshua was actually of divine origin or where he was just a man. Beneath that, something deeper was happening, though. It was the theological identity that was being shaped. The entire movement was being rewritten, no longer rooted in Hebrew thought, but in Greek philosophical categories. Keep that in mind, because the terms that we find in the New Testament, this is based on Greek writings. And while there's Hebrew thought behind it, when you interpret it in Greek, you come up with some things that just don't jive with the rest of the book. I'm talking about the Old Testament. That's why it's so important. That's why Vicki and I encourage you, get into the Old Testament. Embrace it. That's right. That's what we're talking about when we say embrace our Hebrew heritage.
Right.
We're not talking about customs and traditions. We're talking about the thoughts and the words that were written down for our benefit.